Hello, today we're talking all about coconut oil. This is an extremely common question I get as a heart dietitian. They ask, Veronica, can I eat coconut oil or is it bad for my heart? So I wanted to get into the research today to let you know what you should be doing for your heart health. And for those of you who I haven't met, I'm Veronica. I am the heart dietitian. I'm a dietitian specializing in heart disease. I have over 10 years of experience doing so, and I create free content like this for you to help you prevent a heart attack or stroke. So let's talk all about that coconut oil. Interestingly, I read a survey from the New York Times and it was asking individuals if coconut oil was healthy. Well, 72% of the public said yes, and only 30% of nutritionists and dietitians said no. Before we get into the research, let me know in the comments below what you think. The first thing I like to do when looking at a food is look into their nutritional profile. So when you look at coconut oil, I like to look at the fat proportions. And we know that there's two types of fat in our food system. One is called saturated fat, and another one's called unsaturated fat. The American Heart Association recommends consuming mainly unsaturated fat and trying to replace most of your saturated fat with unsaturated fat. So, what is coconut oil? Well, when we look at coconut oil's profile, it contains 90% saturated fat, which kind of goes against the American Heart Association recommendation of eating mainly unsaturated fats instead of saturated fats. But let's look at it in more detail. When we look at 1 tablespoon of coconut oil, it contains around 11 grams of saturated fat. When we look at the American Heart Association recommendation, they suggest limiting saturated fat to about 10% of your daily calories. So I guess let me break that down. If you're eating about 2,000 calories in a day, that's around 13 grams of saturated fat for your whole day. So going back to the coconut oil, 1 tablespoon is around 11 grams of saturated fat. That's almost your daily allowance of the 13 grams of saturated fat you're allowed in a day. So now that we've looked at the nutritional profile, let's dive into the research. There has been lots of studies about coconut oil, which is fantastic. The study results indicate that eating coconut oil can increase your HDL cholesterol levels. H as in healthy, that's your high density lipoproteins. So that's a good thing. We want our HDL to go up. But these studies also suggest that eating coconut oil will also increase your LDL cholesterol levels, your lousy cholesterol, or your low density lipoproteins. So what does that mean for our heart health? We want our LDL cholesterol to be low and our HDL cholesterol to be high. And does coconut oil do that? Not necessarily. I'm always looking at the research to see if a food has been studied with the outcomes of prevention of a cardiovascular event, such as a heart attack or a stroke, or even death. There's not a lot of research around coconut oil and these markers. Let's look at those studies that compared coconut oil with the outcomes of your LDL and HDL cholesterol. The coconut oil that was used in the studies is a lot different than the coconut oil that's sold in the grocery store. The coconut oil that's used in the studies had a lot more medium chain triglycerides. You may have heard of these as MCT or MCT oil. MCT or medium chain triglycerides have been studied to increase our metabolism and promote weight loss. The studies used the coconut oil that had more MCT than what's available in the grocery store. In the studies, they used coconut oil that had about 100% MCT. In regular grocery stores, the coconut oil has about maybe 13, 14% MCTs. So quite a difference there. When the grocery store coconut oil was tested in terms of heart health or LDL cholesterol and HDL cholesterol, the results weren't as good as the one that had more MCT oil. It didn't have any results that helped with weight loss, that increased our metabolism, or improved our lipid levels like that LDL and HDL marker, which is pretty unfortunate if you ask me, since that's real life application, right? What can we as consumers get our hands on? That's what should be studied in the research. What do we recommend with coconut oil and heart health? They recommend a high fat diet, but a diet that replaces that saturated fat or coconut oil with unsaturated fat, like extra virgin olive oil, for example. A high-fat diet is okay, but mainly unsaturated fat can be heart healthy, and it can prevent against a cardiovascular event such as a heart attack, a stroke, or even death. So that's not to say that you can never have coconut oil again. It definitely has a place. Moderation comes to mind. If you have a recipe or two that you really like to use coconut oil in, that's okay. But the majority of your fat intake should not be from coconut oil and instead from an unsaturated fat like extra virgin olive oil. What do you think about this science? I'm extremely interested in the research to come in order for us to really understand about coconut oil in more detail. If you have a heart-healthy dietary question, leave it in the comments below. I'd love to answer it in my next video. See you next week.